Of course, all families, famous or not, carry some dark secrets from their past that they'd rather not have exposed. However, the royals' dark secrets are about as wild as it gets. This is your host Adam, and here are the top 10 dark secrets exposed about the royal family. At number 10, we have King Charles and his raunchy phone calls with Camilla. Now this one is pretty gross, honestly. We are full aware of King Charles's marriage to his previous wife Diana, and how it was not a good time at all. There was infidelity on both sides here, but the one that really peed people off was Charles's affair with Camilla Parker Bowles. During the time that Camilla and Charles were still with their husband and wife respectively, the two did have some rather interesting secret phone calls. 1992 was the year that Charles and Diana officially separated, but it was also the year when one of these phone conversations were leaked to the public, and Charles had quite a few interesting things to say during that conversation. Things that I don't think I'm even really allowed to say here. Let's just say it had to do with feminine hygiene and call it a day. If you are interested, feel free to research because I'm moving on. Hey, if you think the royal family's dark secrets are juicy, hit that like button. It really helps out our channel. Thanks guys. And with that, at number 9 we have Diana. Just the whole situation. And in a way, this also kind of extends to the more recent Meghan Markle controversy. You see, Diana was a very open individual. The people loved her, and she had no issue being honest about her hardships. Among the royals, Diana was the most human, and she would make this fact known by being open and honest about her human struggles, especially being a part of the incredibly structured, judgmental, and old-fashioned royal family. In November 1995, the princess gave a television interview during which she spoke of her unhappiness in her personal life and the pressures of her public role. Specifically, Diana suffered from depression and bulimia, which she talked about in length, and it honestly accrued her a lot more love from the people than she already had. And in turn, it also turned the public against the royal family even more, especially as Charles and friends of his would use her words against her, claiming that anything she accused Charles of was caused by her psychological issues. It's kind of truly disgusting, and adds to the reason some people believe the monarchy should be abolished. At number 8, we have people's doubts about whether or not Charles is actually Harry's biological father. With all the scandal that was surrounding Charles and his former wife Diana, it was starting to look like there couldn't possibly be any more reports about them that could surface. That was until a few people scratched beyond the surface in one of Diana's tell-alls. In 1995, in an interview on BBC's Panorama with a journalist named Martin Bashir, Diana admitted to an affair she carried out for 5 years with a military man named James Hewitt. There was intense speculation once Diana passed that James was potentially the biological father of her son Harry and not Charles as originally believed. And despite their ever so prominently similar looks, James denied being Harry's real dad. James detailed that it wouldn't have been possible because Harry was conceived prior to the start of his and Diana's relationship. Still, people be speculating. At number 7, we have the Queen and her secret cousins. Aired on Channel 4 for the British network in 2011 was a documentary called The Queen's Hidden Cousins, where it was revealed that there was a scandal that managed to conceal itself from the eye of the public for decades. Way back in the 1940s, the stigma around mental disabilities was very prominent, and it wasn't seen or understood as well as it is now. Obviously, with Diana, this stigma reared its ugly head, but the Queen's first cousins, Catherine and Nerissa, fell victim to their physical and mental issues as well. The nieces of the Queen Mother were placed into a mental institution in 1941 and remained there for the rest of their lives. Because of this, Nerissa and Catherine were said to have been cut off from the lives of the royal family forever. A nurse in the documentary who oversaw the cousins made it very clear that not once did the royals ever go to see Catherine or Nerissa. This claim was obviously disputed by the royal family, but I obviously don't doubt it. At number 6, we have Princess Beatrice, who dated a criminal. While she was 7th in line for the throne and held the title of being the Queen's granddaughter, Beatrice was also a socialite and philanthropist. However, she also made some fairly sketchy dating decisions in her past. For example, back in 2006, when the princess was a mere 17 years old, Beatrice started seeing American playboy Paolo Louzzo. However, ahead of his relationship with Beatrice, Paolo was indicted for taking the life of a 19-year-old man named Jonathan Duchatellier. Jonathan reportedly passed away as a result of the injuries he sustained from Paolo in 2002. The incident was said to have taken place after Jonathan had confronted Paolo about his disrespect towards females at a party. However, the charge of manslaughter was eventually dropped and then reduced. This, however, did not stop Paolo from breaking the terms of his probation to woo Beatrice with a trip to the French Alps. Unsurprisingly, these two did not last. At number 5, we have the incident of the Duchess of York being caught on camera getting her toes sucked. I can't believe I just said that out loud. Sarah Ferguson was married to a certain prince whose very name isn't allowed on YouTube. That is a whole other story I'm not even allowed to talk about, but the pair ended up separating in 1992. When their marriage began to run its course, Sarah was a lot less discreet about her courting of other men, which, of course, again resulted in the royal family's snubbing. The situation escalated even further when Sarah was pictured at a beach with financier John Bryant. During their sandy getaway, Sarah was topless and reporters managed to capture some pics of Bryant sucking Sarah's toes. Gross. I don't like that. Naturally, the Queen was not having any of that and ended up banning Sarah from Balmoral Castle. At number 4, we have Princess Anne and her dog, who seemingly enjoyed attacking people. As the only daughter of the late Queen Elizabeth and the sibling of Charles, surprisingly, this is one princess who I didn't think could land in any scandals. From her charity work to her seemingly kind heart, it's almost shocking to know that she's made our countdown. And yet, back when Anne and her husband were placing their dogs into a car after a walk around Windsor Great Park in 2002, one of the dogs, an English Bull Terrier, managed to escape and savagely attack two boys who were enjoying their bike ride in the park. The couple were taken to court and served an $880 fine that they were ordered to pay. This marked the very first time a senior royal had ever been charged with a criminal offense. In a turn of events that was greatly upsetting to the victims' families, the dog was allowed to live, and reportedly the next year or so ended up mauling one of the Queen's most beloved corgis, which the royal family probably took more seriously. That's not a fact, but they seemed pretty self-interested, so it wouldn't be surprising. At number 3, we have Princess Margaret's string of affairs. The Queen's sister, the late Princess Margaret, managed to grasp the interest of the public due to her interesting lifestyle choices. Margaret never once feared living her life however she pleased, as most shouldn't, and was widely known to be a heavy drinker and smoker since she was 15. Despite her marriage to Anthony Armstrong Jones, a photographer, in 1960, Margaret didn't quite slow down her player lifestyle. She started an affair with a gardener in 1973 who was reportedly 17 years younger than her, and she wasn't able to escape the press in 1976 when a picture of her and her reported lover, Roddy Llewellyn, made the front page and headlined the now discontinued news outlet News of the World. This was just the start of Margaret's string of affairs that rocked the boat in her marriage, and by the time 1978 rolled around, the former couple's divorce was finalized, but I'm sure she was perfectly fine. In at number 2, we have first cousins Queen Victoria and Prince Albert. The running joke surrounding the royal family all mixing their DNA and bearing children together has been a constant thing for as long as the royals have been. However, some people don't actually know that this banter is factually correct for some of the couples of the royal family. Cousins and more distant relatives often get betrothed to each other, something about royal bloodlines, which is thankfully a very archaic way of thinking. Even the late Queen Elizabeth and her husband were related. Philip and Elizabeth shared a great-great-grandmother, Queen Victoria. Philip was a direct descendant of Princess Alice, the third child of Queen Victoria, while Queen Elizabeth is a direct descendant of Queen Victoria's oldest son, who became King Edward VII. Speaking of Victoria, her and her husband Albert were actually first cousins. They got married in 1840 and shared 9 children in their time together. The thing is, royals always married others of similar status in the world, and since historically, royals would make alliances through marriage, bloodlines are interconnected all over Europe. Not really a secret, but still, ick. At number 1, we have Princess Anne's son-in-law who spent a night in a dwarf tossing club. Yes, this one is strange, and yes, it did very much happen. Despite Mike Tyndall not being a royal by blood, his everlasting marriage to Princess Anne's daughter, Zara Phillips, decrees that he is on the ins with the royals. However, his connection to the family could not save the English rugby player from the backlash that occurred after it was reported he spent one of his nights in 2011 at a, quote, dwarf tossing club in New Zealand. According to articles from the time, Mike and his team went to celebrate their win against Argentina at the club. And despite Mike insisting he nor his teammates actually threw a dwarf, just him being present in such a location was enough to spark massive outrage in the media. And understandably so, that was kind of messed up. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm Adam Andrews. Special shout out to Michaela, who wrote a large majority of this video. This has been BTS, and peace out.